Welcome to Lion Pride Sports, again here with Coach Jed Stugart. I'm Andrew Rogers, and Coach, it's great to see you again.
Great to see you, Andrew, and it was a quick week. We're already back at it here.
Yeah, talk about week one, against Washburn, not the outcome you wanted to have. What went wrong?
Well, what went wrong, I think just playing 4 quarters of physical football. I mean, obviously, there's a bunch of things that contributed to that. I think, we've got a bunch of new faces. We kind of knew coming in. Offensively, we've kind of had a whole makeover here. I mean, we've had about 7 kids that are making their first college start. And, we didn't bring a lot of attention to that. You kind of try to just kind of move on. But it's always in the back of your mind just on how kids are going to respond. I thought we did have a lot of positive things, but, between just offensively in the second half, we got real stagnant. And there's a couple of reasons why. We've identified that on film. And then, special teams-wise, we just our 2 long punt returns that set up some scores, put our defense in a bad spot. And, that's just getting the punt where it needs to be and not down the middle of the field. We've got to place the punt where it's supposed to be. And because it's just those little things that mount up to win and lose football games. So we feel like we've identified those and we've corrected those and we've kind of really addressed those in practice this week to try to get those things fixed.
And I like how you mentioned that the offense was stagnant in the second half. I want to get to that in just a bit, but first I want to go to what you said about the offensive makeover, because what a lot of people don't know is how many new and transferred students came into the Lindenwood football system this year, especially the starting quarterback, Cade Brister. Talk about his performance for me. Break it down. He had a rushing touchdown, and he also had a passing touchdown. Now, did you notice any happy feet or nerves throughout his first collegiate start?
He looked very composed, to be honest with you. But, he even said, when he looks back at the film, there's a lot of times where he's escaping the pocket when he didn't need to, because he was such a playmaker in high school where he could break the pocket and go get a lot of yards. The game's faster, obviously, in college, and I think Cade kind of recognized that there's times where he was just kind of getting some happy feet and trying to get, he felt a little pressure, and he could have probably stood in there. For a redshirt freshman, first college football game, I mean, his grades graded out very well. I think he was in the 66, 67% completion rating, which is outstanding, actually. So a lot of positives, but yeah, I think, and he's a very intellectual kid. And when he saw the film, kind of saw his performance, I think he's already identified that, and I anticipate him growing up really fast.
And then not to back up Cade at all, but do you feel that with the lack of run game with Cam Sanders only rushing for 27 yards, that kind of forced Cade to run the football more and bring him back to that playmaking ability?
Absolutely. I think, it's not really calling out one specific group, but I tell you what, the offensive line is so key. And these guys know that we got to find 5 guys that want to play physical football. And we lost a couple battles, especially when they kind of shifted to a look defensively that we didn't handle well. That's where experience really pays off, and to have that 3 new offensive linemen kind of going, it does. It makes a difference, and that really kind of hurt our run game. And I do think that attributed to Cade feeling like, hey, I got to make some plays where sometimes he could have stood in. But you know what? For the most part, that was very minimal. He actually did a really good job, and we're highly encouraged for a redshirt freshman, because you're always going to have some of those freshman mistakes.
And then you said, how the run game was just practically, I should say, fell apart throughout the beginning portion of that game, and then it just carried over all the way to the end. Is that a testimony to how good the Washburn defense is, and the fact that they pack the box? Yeah,
they're very good. You don't see this front a lot. It's not an excuse. It's just you have to adjust, and we didn't adjust well. And it's they shifted to what they call a 3-3 stack, where 3 down linemen and 3 linebackers, and there's a lot of slanting and moving and a lot of pressure that comes. And it takes a little bit to, you kind of like to see those kind of defenses 3 or 4 weeks into the season, not the first one, because, you don't really, it's such a different look. But you have to deal with it. So it's more about us not adjusting than them. But they were, number one. I do believe this is a good Washburn team. I know coming in with how many kids they were returning from last year, they were definitely the older group on the field, and that pays dividends. And so I anticipate them being a pretty good football team this year. And, like I said, part of our whole, when we came here a year ago, it was a little bit about, building that foundation of culture. And we knew that, we turned over 35, 36 kids in our program through graduation, and kids that have left our program. So there is a lot of new, but you got to start with that foundation, and getting young guys going and getting a lot of youth on the field is going to be a part of that. And so it's just time a lot of them will grow up between week 1 and week 2. I'm very encouraged about this week.
And then going back to Cade, and I don't want this to sound like, we're just attacking the new freshman starting quarterback at all. It's more like breaking down his game. But do you feel like he should have taken more chances downfield, throwing the ball a little bit further?
Yeah, we missed, he missed a couple throws there, but, Eric Hinneman, one of our great tight ends, he said, after the game, he just kind of took ownership on. He also dropped dropped one that he shouldn't have, and then Cade missed him on one that was a little downfield too. Part of that is kind of keeping, sometimes when quarterbacks they're looking for escape routes, their eyes go down and they don't look downfield. And I think that's one of those things where Cade is very good at recognizing what he did wrong and saying, okay, I'm going to take this into next week and get better with that, because, anytime you have freshman quarterbacks, those are, you got to learn some of those things the hard way. And I can see him, because he really learned from that. So we did, there was some shots downfield, or even just, mid-range routes that could have been hit. But again, when he felt the pressure, and to his defense, sometimes there wasn't great protection, so he had to escape. And so that's what I mean. When that breaks down in the protection part of it, it really kind of causes a lot of havoc.
And then 3 and outs, were those an issue at all throughout the game?
Oh, absolutely. I think just it felt like our defense was on. They only had we were only on the field for 73 plays on defense, so it wasn't like we had all these. That's a pretty average game. It felt like they were on the field a ton, because we just weren't. We were getting too many 3 and outs, and we just couldn't convert first downs. And then the field position was bad when you can't cover a couple returns or get guys pinned back. So I think our defense average starting position was on our 45-yard line, which is not a good place to start.
And then early in the second quarter, you guys finally took the lead. Do you feel like the team got too comfortable at all with that lead?
You always worry about that. I think, one of the objectives when we got here is a team that had not been winning, and they'd had things go wrong. And so the psyche of it, of kind of feeling like, here it goes again kind of thing. So we've had to battle that last year. And this year, going into the first one, we had talked a lot about, when we face adversity, how are we going to handle that? And so, we felt good going into halftime. Even, they took the lead with a field goal that they kept them from scoring a touchdown. Our defense did. So that was a little bit of a moral victory at halftime, to say, hey, we held them to 3 instead of a touchdown. And we had the ball coming out of the half. And I think just what I was disappointed in is there just wasn't this sense of urgency on the offensive side to say, hey, we get the ball to start the second half. Let's go put a drive together. And we went 3 and out. And that first initial drive and start of second half is always crucial. It can really set the tone for the first half. So we've preached sense of urgency and energy and tempo and this whole week, and we just got to get that. And like I said, that just comes with some experience. We have a lot of young guys looking around, kind of who's going to make the play. So they've got to grow up fast this year. There's no question.
And now a look ahead to Missouri Southern, okay? 0-11 last year in conference play. They haven't won a game since 2016. How are you going to keep the guys and the athletes' mindset of, okay, we're going to go look at this team like it's any other opponent?
Well, just because it's interesting, I've had a few kids tell me that this week at practice, because I haven't really wanted to bring a lot of attention to that, because sometimes you don't even know if kids are thinking that way, but then you also want to find out if they're thinking that way. So, just kind of in passing or standing at practice and asking a kid, I've heard that same expression. It's like, hey, we don't care who we're playing. If we're playing the national champion, if we're playing a bad team, a good team, they keep saying it's about us, about taking care of our problems, taking care of what we need to do to go win, and just putting 4 quarters together. So I love what the kids are saying. They need to believe that. This is college football. These guys, Missouri Southern's got kids on scholarship too, and we got to make sure that we're taking care of business, because we're in no position to be looking out ahead and looking at schedules and we're 0-1 right now. So I think everybody understands it's about us and about who instead of who we're playing.
And how will you take care of business against Missouri Southern? What takeaways are you going to take back from the Washburn game and say, okay, let's execute these against the Lions?
Yeah, well, we really changed our whole practice style this week. We to try to get some of our young guys matured quickly. I mean, we went, typically you kind of go against scout teams and things like that in practice. We did a lot of ones-on-one period this week just to get our best against best, and our first team against second team, and they were kind of given the looks of Missouri Southern, but yet we were playing with our number one players against the number one players, and then twos were going against twos, and vice versa a little bit. So to get that competitive, get a little bit more physicality, we had some competition periods in practice this week to kind of bring a little energy and excitement to practice. So I think we've emphasized a period, what we call a starting fast period, where we basically just come out of stretch, spot the ball, and start fast, and get our offense to realize, hey, we got to get a drive put together. So we're attacking those things through practice, and usually you play like you practice. That's kind of our philosophy. And so, we've had a good week of practice to address some of those things.
And by talking to Drew Sears a little bit after week one of your starters on the defensive side of the ball, talk about who stood out defensively for you in your mind. Think about that, because when Drew was talking to me about it, he and like you said already, the defense was on the field a lot more than you probably would want them on there, and it seemed like every time they got off the field they were back on, and it's not a shot at the offense at all. It's more just like the defense needs to recuperate before getting back on.
Right. Well, first of all, the nice thing that's a little different this year than it was last year. That's what we're looking at. We don't talk too much about last year to our team, but like I said, to build that foundation has to be about our culture. And one thing I loved that I didn't hear was negativity that night. I wasn't hearing the defense upset of the offense or yelling about, hey, you got to get a first down, or this is stupid. We heard a lot of those things last year. We had to keep addressing those. This team's more unified, and they believe in each other. And I think there's going to be times where our defense is really going to be relying on our offense too this year, and so you can't always do that. But guys that stood out, I mean, John Harris, it wasn't huge on the stat sheet, but when you see what that guy does inside, that affects so many plays. C.J. Bevins, was all over the field. Drew was all over the field. And then, our secondary, we got caught a couple times with our eyes down, what we call eye violations, that got a receiver behind us. But for the most part, I thought we covered well. And we've got physical DBs, and a couple of those interference calls where I think they were a little bit excessive to call. Not excessive on our end. I think it was a little bit where the receiver and DB kind of got hands on each other, and somehow we get flagged for that. We're going to be physical defensive backs. That's going to happen. So for the most part, we had a lot of physical play. But again, that's our most experienced group on that side of the football, and we'd expect that out of them.
Well, great, Coach. Thank you so much again for joining us. Again, good luck against Missouri Southern. The Lions play on Saturday. And, Coach, I can't wait to get you back on here next week and let's talk about a win.
That's absolutely right, Andrew. Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks again, Coach Stugart, for joining us. When we come back from the break, the head coach of the Lindenwood men's soccer team will be joining me here on Lion Pride Sports.
So we were walking to school.
I started thinking about lunch. Mom packed me turkey and cheese.
She's smart.
I really want cheese pizza.
Sometimes her mind wanders.
We should have a sleepover.
I remember saying, Laura?
I think I heard Mom say something.
The sign says don't walk.
Sometimes it's so overwhelming.
I really hope she doesn't have another bad day.
I really hope I don't have another bad day at school today.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. Go to understood.org, a free online resource with support and tools to help your child thrive.
I'm one unlucky guy. The chance of being involved in a robbery is 1 in 757. The chances of being struck by lightning, 1 in 750,000.
Please fasten your seatbelts for unexpected turbulence.
The chances of being a victim in an airline crash, 1 in 29 million. Hey, could I get some peanuts? The chances of being involved in a car crash are far greater than lightning strikes and plane crashes. And if you are texting while driving, your risk of crash increases 23 times. Now, I may be an unlucky guy, but I don't have to be part of that statistic. and neither do you. Drive responsibly.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish!
It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to Line Pride Sports here with the Lindenwood head soccer coach, Coach Hutter. I'm Andrew Rogers, and Coach, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
And Coach, back in 2016, you won your third MIAA championship after going 7-1 in conference play. Already this year, 1-1 on the season. Talk about how the season's been going.
It's going fine. We're happy to be started and getting underway. We're just working as a collective group to try to raise our level and to cut down on mistakes and just be a better collective group. And it would be good to be 3-0 right now, but we'll take what we have, and we're just going to keep trying to grow.
And, you know, in your previous matchup against Rockers, that's probably the hardest matchup you'll see all year, besides a lot of the conference play that you guys go into. Just 4 minutes into the game, Rockers got on the board. Talk about how impactful early scoring is in a game like that.
It's always impactful. You hope that it's going to be impactful, that you're the one that scores the goal. And you got to be ready from the first minute. And I think we were. We gave a ball away about midfield, and then they attacked with it and ended up getting a restart, a corner kick. And then you got to cover, just like in basketball, you got to get rebounds. You know, the ball's going to go up, and the ball's going to be cramming around, and you have to go get the ball more times than they're going to get it. And they got the second ball and ended up we were just flat in the moment. So, you know, we ended up making it a good game. They're a good team. We're going to have more challenges besides them, so it's just one game at a time. But yeah, it would have been good to get that win, and we had opportunities to do it. But at the same time, you have to give credit to Rockhurst. They found a way to win, and it was very hot, but it was hot for everybody.
Right, and you said you had a lot of chances of scoring. You had 11 shots, 2 being on goal, a lot of scoring opportunities, like we said. With having one of the best offenses about 3 years ago, averaging about 3 goals a game, talk about, you know, just what the difficulty was trying to put the ball in the back of the net.
I think whatever sport you play in, and respectfully, you know, our football team had a real good opening game, and they were moving the ball. Their quarterback threw a couple of touchdowns, and then in the second half they had a hard time scoring. And so it's hard in any sport to score goals or score points. And we're just trying to work on that every day. The biggest thing we want to do is just be a balanced team that plays up and down the field. You have to run and attack and defend, just like in basketball. And so we're working very hard on concentrating on scoring goals, but also defending enough that whatever it takes, if you have to win a game by 1 goal or 2 goals, we want to make sure that we can also do a good job of defending.
Yeah, and just talk about defending now on the counter. You know, defensively, you've always had a strong defense in MIAA, top tier defense. Do you feel that this year the defense is just as strong as it's been in years past?
I think so, and I think every year when you come in, you have so much time to prepare in preseason, and you have to hope that they have good conceptual understanding of playing soccer because of, you know, they spent a lot of years before they came here. And yeah, we have good players. There's some competitions about who's going to play the most right now, and we're still trying to sort that out. But from our goalkeeper all the way up in front of our 3 or 4 defenders and the rest of the team, we have to guard our goal and make sure that we cut down on attempts on our goal and then make the saves that we're supposed to make.
And then what? Go ahead.
And then just find a way. If sometimes soccer, you know, to people it's boring. It's not boring to me because there's a lot of drama that goes on in a game. But sometimes these games are going to be 1-0 games, like it was with Rockhurst. And so if you're not going to find a way to score more goals than the other team, then you at least want to walk away with a tie that game. And that means that you've done a good job of guarding your goal.
Right, and now walking away from Rockhurst, now you even have another tough opponent here coming on Friday against Maryville. Maryville, the 19th ranked team in the country. What's the game plan looking like to see a team and play against a team like that after playing that tough opponent of Rockhurst?
Just another good team to play. It's also very cool because they're here in the Metro St. Louis area, so you hope that we can keep building on some good rivalries. We had a good fun match on Sunday night with UMSL, same thing, and the coach David Korn that came to Maryville a few years ago. He's doing a good job. He's recruiting well, and he has good players. They're organized. So it's going to be a good, fun challenge for us. We're looking forward to it.
And then talk about just close games in general, because that's basically what this season has been. You know, the draw, the one-goal win, the one-goal loss. I don't want to use the term difficult again, because, you know, it's always hard to score in a soccer match because there's not a lot of scoring. It's not like football where you put up 49 points. Soccer is a 2 to 3 goal type of sport. But who are the top scorers on your team this year, or is it something that ranges from the front all the way back?
Yeah, we really don't. We have a young man from Oakville High School, Thomas Hutchison, who was out after he hurt his knee the end of the 2016 season. And so he had to recover from that. And also another local guy, Kyle Weinrich, he's recovering right now. He strained his knee and had to have a surgery the other day. So those guys are a big part of our. Kyle is more of a player that runs up and down the field, but Thomas is a horse as well. He scored a lot of goals in high school and has scored a good number of goals at the college level. And then we have another young man that transferred back from a Division I university that went to McClure High School, Pepe Nadier. And so we're hoping that those guys, along with a collective group of getting a goal or two from a midfielder or on a corner kick, you know, a restart, maybe one of our defenders or somebody like that, we don't really care where they come from. You know, we just hope that we have some balance in our scoring, and we expect that we will. Right now we're just trying to sort out some wrinkles, and we just started our season, so we expect that we will. These guys have been good, productive players for us. And they're all a good group of guys, so I think that they have a collective interest in winning and being a successful team. So I think we'll be fine.
And a big part of those wrinkles come with the injuries that you already stated. You know, just talking about that type of injury trend now. Who on the team is injured, just for starters, for people to be informed on that, and how has that changed the game plan at all for you, or has it allowed other players to just step up into a bigger role?
Well, first of all, we're still waiting for players to step up. We're still trying to find out what our depth is like and how deep we are. We just don't know yet, and we have some good young players that are in their first and second years that haven't yet got much playing time other than some preseason games. But we're just keep imploring them to keep training and working to raise their level so that we can use them. And then with Kyle Weinrich, we just got good news after his surgery that it looks pretty good. It should be just few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks recovery time, and we'll have him back. So we're trying to build on where we are with our first 11, but also when you play a lot of games, that first 11, that number changes and those people change a lot. So again, we're just trying to stay a solid collective group and build on our depth. And then the people that are injured will come along. We have a young man, it's a sophomore, that we recruited out of a prep high school in Boston. And he's from Santiago, Chile, and also one of his teammates is from Santiago, and these guys are both really outstanding players, and they're part of the glue in our midfield that's helping us stir the drink, if you will, and get the ball up to the attackers.
And you mentioned like these players from Chile. I know you've gone to Brazil to watch players play. Do you love your job when it comes to recruiting, going to all these different areas and trying to find the next best player to add to your team?
Well, of course, and it's not like I'm going there to get on the beach or anything. You know, we do some traveling when we need to, and also it's just we're trying to represent, and also I go to some college admissions fairs too, and I'll also just talk about opportunities for kids in general to come to Lindenwood. But yeah, we're going to go and watch people wherever we can go. But also we have good connections with people from around St. Louis, from around the country, and from other places around the world. So it's not always necessary that you go to those places, but when we do, yeah, it's a good opportunity to see them up close and personal. And to me, soccer is a sport that's played all around the USA and all around the world, so we have a lot of reflections of that in our program. There's a lot of diversity, and so that helps our world spin better here with our soccer program, we feel.
And you've had a long tenure as a head coach, over 25 seasons now. How have you been able to keep guys locked into your system and always buy in to your approach?
Well, we talk to them in the beginning when we're recruiting them about expectations, and then we want them to come in and have a good experience, to make new friends, to work hard to raise your level in the sport that you want to play in, but also develop yourself professionally. Make sure that you're doing your professional development, just like people are doing here with production and TV and radio. It's the same thing with our student athletes. You guys are doing a lot of extracurricular things, and so are our student athletes, but also they're developing professionally. So those are the things we talk to them about before they come here. Not just, let's go win a national championship. Of course, that's what our goal is. That's one of our goals, but mainly to have collective successes and to have a rich experience. And the other thing is that sometimes there's going to be hard days. It's going to be tough. Coaches are going to be intense. We're going to put pressure on you to do well and to raise your level and to concentrate. And sometimes it gets emotional, but we have to keep our composure in those times. And our players know that we have their backs and that we support them, even though sometimes it's going to be hard days, you know. Yeah. But overall, you know, it's a good opportunity, and that's how you invest in your future.
Right, and with the expectation of an MIAA championship this year, and of course a tournament run, that you always look ahead to that end goal, but of course you want to take every matchup as a time. But if we do look toward that end goal, how do you plan on getting back to the MIAA championship?
Well, our goals are, including the other stuff that they're doing here as students, and also you know, the professional development stuff, but also, yeah, to get qualified for the postseason, to take one game at a time, and to concentrate hard on those games and don't get ahead of yourself, and keep working to recover and get your legs fresh and stay locked in school so we can keep you going with us. And yeah, get qualified for the postseason. And once you get into the postseason, part of that is doing well in your conference and in your region, hopefully winning the conference and regional, and then trying to get into the postseason and hopefully play in middle to late November, and then ultimately in December. That's when you play for the national championship.
And then finally, to wrap this thing all full circle, let's go to you. What coaching expectations have you set for yourself this year? You've had an incredible track record throughout your coaching career, a national championship, the 2016 MIAA Coach of the Year. Just, again, go back to you now. What are the goals that you've set for yourself?
To keep working. I mean, I've been doing something for a long time, but it's what are you doing right now? You use those experiences to help yourself grow. So keep learning. If I feel like I've been doing something for a long time and now I've learned everything, then I should really stop doing this and just go drive a cab or a truck. And with all respect to people, because I used to drive a truck in the 70s when I was in school, I just think you have to keep working to raise your level. You have to utilize the people that you have around you and delegate to them, and then just keep trying to grow, the same thing that we're asking and expecting our players to do.
And you love what you do.
Same thing with me. Absolutely, yeah, every day. I mean, you come here, we have students here at the university to serve us, and that's what our job is, and so that's what I enjoy doing.
Thanks again, Coach, for sitting down, joining us today here on Lion Pride Sports. Again, you can catch the Lions in action against the 19th ranked team in the country, Maryville University. That is Friday, September 7th. The game starts at 7, and you can check them out at Hunter Stadium. Again, to wrap this thing up, I'm Andrew Rogers saying so long here for Lion Pride Sports.